Hi, welcome to Remember This. I have an exciting show for you. I have an amazing guest, attorney Tricia Lindsay. She is a New York civil rights attorney and a former school teacher of 24 years in Yonkers and the New York public school districts. She works to improve the lives of inner city families. She fights for equity and justice, especially in the education system. And she's been a powerful voice against the vaccine mandates, especially in New York City. So without further ado, let me bring on Attorney Lindsay. How are you? Welcome.
Great. How are you? Thank you for having me, Denise. How are
Thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
So
thank you for having me.
You are, yes, it's a pleasure. You are on the front lines. You are on the front lines. And when we got hit with the mandates, and it was pretty bad here in New York, you were fighting against it. Can you tell us let's give us a little bit of background and how you got involved with that?
Oh, wow. The fight, to be honest with you, my first jump in was in Connecticut, to be honest with you. And from Connecticut, it led to here. So there was a rally or something that happened. Actually, it was a press conference on the Capitol, the steps of the Capitol in Hartford, Connecticut. And they needed a civil rights attorney to come and speak to what they knew was coming down the pike as far as these unconstitutional bills and mandates and things of that nature. And a colleague of mine, Dr. Aaron Lewis, told the organizer about me. And he called me. I was in court, actually. And he said, can you make it to this press conference today? And, he told me what it was about. And he already knew how I felt about what was happening. And so I said, of course, definitely. And so I went and just spoke off the cuff regarding constitutional issues and civil rights issues. And then from there, I was invited by Children's Health Defense and a number of different organizations who had subsequent rallies and subsequent, press conferences and things of that nature addressing the mandates and the bills that were coming down. And so it was something that was very true to my heart, especially because I knew they were going to go after the children.
Yes.
And so I think it was just like perfect alignment, perfect timing with what I was doing. And it's just something that speaks, it's just what I do. It's who I am. It's what I've been. I've always been an advocate from education. I have a nursing degree, I have a background in that. And, life is interesting because people often said to me, okay, so you did nursing and then you taught for a while. So what's going on? And I said, it all comes together. I'm not exactly sure yet, but I taught biology and science because of my nursing degree. And now I understand COVID. And when they decided to lock us down in the homes or demand that we go home, I said, that's basic biology. That doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And they kept saying, follow the science, follow the science. I said, if you follow the science, this does not make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
And so in my brain, I said, something different is going on here. This is not about, a vaccine. This is not about a virus. This is not about saving lives. That's not what it's about. And I've always been kind of like the person that thinks outside of the box. I'm always asking a question. I've been like that all my life. And it took me back to a topic that I wrote on when I was a freshman in Syracuse University. And it was a topic that kind of rubbed my biology teachers the wrong way. But come to find out, full circle, I was right. I was right. And that had to do with AIDS. And let's not even get into that.
Yeah. Well,
and information that I stumbled on in the library. And it just led me to writing to the World Health Organization and the Army Defense Fund and all these different people that worked on that initiative. And so when I wrote the paper, it was questioned as far as this can't be
as
true.
It should have been.
Right. But then it was, where's the information? Let me have it. Right. Let us have it. We want the information. And I said, I'm not giving you anything. You can go find it on your own. Give me my grade and let me go home. And so it was an interesting conversation.
And the more we go down the rabbit hole, the more we find out. And that was purposely put out to the gay community, right? You know it. Wasn't it through like hepatitis
B program in New York City, 25 to 40-year-olds.
Yes.
It was 100,000 Africans through the smallpox and 14,000 Haitians. Yes.
Yes.
In their countries. And so that was the crazy thing. How does one virus pop up in 3 different countries at the same time? It just didn't make sense. You know, and there's more to it than that, right? That's just the opening.
And knowledge is power. And once you know something, you can't unknow it. And so more and more, and you could attest to this, right? More and more people from the Black community are pulling away from the Democrats because they're not the Democrats of their parents and their grandparents. It's totally radical. But I wanted to go back real quick and just ask you quick for people that, no, this is good. This is good. But I just had a question for people that they ran to get this because they thought they had to. And I don't mean for their job. I just mean in general. Can you explain the difference between a mandate and a law? Because it wasn't a law.
A mandate is not a law. A mandate is an order that's given in hopes that people comply. That's what I say. It's just an order that is given, and it's supposed to be based on the law, but it's not. And that's why we kept saying that compliance is not going to get us anywhere. Compliance is going to create a problem, because once the people begin to comply, then the legislators say, oh, look, this is what they want. The people want it, right? How can we violate it if this is what they want? How are we violating their rights if they're voluntarily signing up for it and if they're doing it? Right. And so that's why the fear mongering was very important. That's why the propaganda was very important, to get more and more people to comply, because the more you comply, then you'd have other people pressuring those who did not want to get it, and they would fall under the pressure of it. Right. And so a mandate is not a law. It's not a law.
Thank you for clarifying.
Just an order. It's like I mandate my children to be in by 10 o'clock. It's not a law, but I'm telling you, be in here. Otherwise, there's going to be a consequence, but it's not a law.
Right.
You know,
and that's what people need to realize. You know, just because it's coming down from the higher ups, first of all, they're corrupt. So you're going to listen to them if they have evil intentions? No. You know,
absolutely.
But yeah, and so a lot of people just ran to get it because they were like, well, we have to. No, you didn't have to. No, you just really didn't have to. You know, so I hope more and more people are waking up to that. And look at now, what did Japan do? They lowered, right? They lowered COVID down to just the flu.
What we did back in April of 2020, that was announced here in April of 2020, but people didn't realize it. And so when I was telling, people, I said, listen, this is a flu. And I believe it was the FDA that said it at the time, or I believe they said it was downgraded to a flu somewhere in the middle of or to late 2020. And people said, what are you talking about? I said, I'm telling you, they announced it, but they pulled it back.
They always pull back.
They always pull back, right?
Yes.
I said, but it is a flu. Like when people get sick, I said, do you know it is flu season? You do understand that, right? Before COVID, this was considered a sniffle. It was considered a cold. It was considered a flu. People died from the flu. So I'm not saying that to take your health seriously and to ensure that you take care of yourself should in case you're not feeling well. But this is no different than before. It's no different. It's just the way it's being handled. They're giving out medication in hospitals that they know are detrimental to the lives of people because it was tested before years ago. And so they know the effects of remdesivir, and they know the effects of it. The protocol. I often say to people, why is it that doctors who have treated patients, thousands, between 5,000 to 35,000, right? Patients, doctors that I have spoken to that I know, that I'm sure you've, heard about, if not spoken to, they've not lost one patient, or if they did, the numbers are very low, using protocols that the hospitals are not using, but they are medications and drugs, mineral vitamins and things of that nature. A combination of things that are approved, has been on the market for years, very little to no side effects. Why are they being threatened? Why are they threatening to take their licenses away? Yet these doctors that are in the hospitals that were sending people in body bags out in droves, they're not being affected. No one's questioning them. No one's asking them anything.
39,000. What was it? 39,000 for every one put on a ventilator?
Yes, exactly.
Every death certificate.
Yes, absolutely.
This is probably not going to go on YouTube after this, but that's okay. This needs to be said.
Yeah.
I said, it's an agenda.
Why is no one asking that question? Why are they being questioned? They're saving lives and being harassed, and the ones that are losing lives are not being harassed.
Yes.
Something is wrong with that. And of
And
course, when
that,
you hit people with those
yes,
kinds of questions, they don't know what to do.
of
So they
course.
just walk away or they clam up or they just say, well, you just need to take it. And I said, no, you need to take it. I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
There you go.
You know,
And well, they're watching the fake news. So when you watch the fake news, they're pumping it into them over.
I know.
I think if you say, or they think if they say a lie over and over and over and over enough, it becomes truth. People will take it as truth if they hear
Well,
it
people
enough.
do. The problem is people do take it as true.
Yeah.
And they studied that psychologically. They said that if you say something to a person and something negative to a person one time, it takes 17 times of a contradictory statement to undo that one damaging statement.
Oh, wow.
So it's an agenda. It's intentional. The billions of dollars that were poured into this 365 day a year, 24 hours, 365 days a year, 24 hours per day for the past, what, 2 years, 2.5 years? They've just been talking about COVID, and it's on purpose because it's brainwashing, it's conditioning, right?
Yes.
And, it's interesting. I forget the name of this show because I didn't watch it, but it was a popular show on Netflix, I want to think. Was that the name of it? Was there a show named You?
Yes. Yes. I watched that. My daughters watched it. Yep.
Okay. Did you ever
Oh, I
see the
remember that
episode
scene. Yes.
where the lady in the
What is
store,
this?
no, the lady in the store where she hit the man over the head with the pen?
Oh, I don't
Uh,
remember that.
ah,
I remember another part of it where they was saying how bad they were for not taking, and it wasn't for COVID, it was for something else, but we knew what they meant.
early
Oh, you're
on,
putting us all at risk because you won't take it. But
early
that part I don't
on,
remember. Tell me
which
about that scene.
this was very interesting because this was towards still the beginning of COVID and it was probably, it would have been the season. This would have been filmed during the season when everything was on lockdown. So it was very interesting that this particular episode was filmed,
Yeah,
right? And
I
this
think I remember
gentleman,
it now. Go ahead.
he walks into a store and there was a lady there, and I guess she's the owner of the store, and they're just having small talk, and they begin to talk about a little boy or someone that went to the school and that was not vaccinated,
Yes.
and it put the other children in danger and things of that nature, and how he should have been vaccinated. And the gentleman said to her something to the effect of, well, if he wasn't sick, why would he need to be vaccinated? And how do we know? Pretty much, the
What
same arguments we were
the
having about
agenda.
the agenda.
Right.
And he finishes up the transaction and he turns to walk out, and she picks up this pin or whatever, knocks him over his head and knocks him out.
I
And
remember that.
the next scene opens up with him tied up in the basement of the store.
Yes.
And when I saw that, I said, wow,
Yeah.
they're going to pit society against each other.
Yes. Criminalizing us. Yes.
Yeah. And I said, that's brainwashing. And
That's
then
right.
when I heard our wonderful president get on the air shortly after that, and he said, this is the virus of the unvaccinated. I
Yeah.
said, oh my God, they're brainwashing the public. They're
Yes, they are.
pitting us again. They want martial law. They want violence to break out in the streets, and they want the society to turn against other members in society. So no longer will they have to push this vaccine or the mask or anything, because our friends, our families, our neighbors, they're the ones that's going to be pushing the mandates.
That's right. Out of fear.
Turning against us out of fear.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And attacking each other. And that's when you started hearing, they cut the information, the news feeds on those stories, but you would hear about security guards shooting people in stores that, a mask, people didn't want to have a mask on, and, they would ask a question, and then all of a sudden break out in gun violence. And I think that happened a couple of times. It was reported on the news, and then all of a sudden you don't hear anything about those stories again, but they were happening.
Yeah.
Right?
And in New York was pretty bad. I mean, they were just looting. Do you remember how bad it was?
Yes. I stopped going to the city because it just felt different.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it felt different. Even afterwards, I just said something has changed down here. It was just a very eerie feeling in New York, and it just didn't make sense. It just did not feel like New York City again. I mean, it might be back now, but I still don't go down there as often, But
Do you feel that New York is going to be redeemed? God is going to save New York somehow? Do you feel like we're going to come back and be maybe better than we were before, or what do you think about what's the future of New York?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to completely die, but I think it's going to go through a transition. It's already going through a transition,
Yeah.
right? But I don't know what's going to happen outside. You know what I really feel like, if I may be frank, and this
Yes.
is not legal, this is more spiritual. I remember when what was the former mayor's name? I put his name out of De Blasio.
De Blasio. It's a bozo.
I'm like, I put
Right.
his name out my head. But there was a New Year's Eve when he and his wife were dancing downtown
Right.
on 42nd Street. And it was just this dance that they were doing in the middle of the street. And I believe we were on lockdown that year. And at that time, it just seemed very strange. And I said to someone, I said, why do I feel like there was a ritual or something done? Like that was some kind of ritualistic dance. I don't know. And like I said, this is not my legal side. This is my spiritual side. But it just felt like something very strange happened. And then if you look at New York and the push for this vaccine and the lockdowns and the pushing in the homes and the schools and everything that's going on and the increase in the cost of living and things just went bizarre, right? And I said, it feels like they're trying to push a certain group of people out of New York to take it over for the elites.
Yes.
Well, just me. And I just felt like in that moment, there was some sort of transference that took place that night, with he and his wife dancing. And this is not true. It's not. It's just what I feel. I just could not shake that feeling for the longest. And I said, this feels to me like some sort of ritualistic dance that's just happening, and they're turning New York over to another entity.
Yes.
And so for that question that you just asked me, the powers that be, well, no, not the ones that are deemed to be the leaders of New York, but the leaders of New York, the people that know God, the people that are standing in the gap, the people that are intervening, the people that are praying and fasting, the people that are fighting. They're the ones. It's going to be up to them. I think all of this is for God's people to be put in place for the shift to happen. There was too much going on, too much freedom, too much. I do what I want to do, whatever makes me happy. Too much, the loss of humanity, lack of concern for people, no love,
total lawlessness.
Yeah, total lawlessness.
I mean, you're an attorney and you see, no bail, no jail.
It's
underage, if you're under 18, is it? Slap on the wrist, go home.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. And there was so much going on behind closed doors also, right? That we did not know about. And so there's a big shifting that has to happen. It's calling us to the carpet, it's calling those of us that got very comfortable in our lives and ignored what was going on. It's pulling people out of their comfort zone. It's forcing us to see each other as brothers and sisters, despite what we may look like, despite where we may come from in culture. It's the true "my country, 'tis of thee." It's the truth. It's no longer going to be just every day and just speaking these words out of your mouth, but this is going to require us to come together and unify in a way that we did not before. And we have to celebrate our differences, because we're more alike than we are different. And the differences are just there to add spice. to add spice to the meal. If you just put salt and black pepper on chicken on every meal, it tastes the same, right? But you add a little bit of extra spices, and that's what makes the meal more interesting. And so we're more interesting and flavorful together than we are separate. And I think this is what's forcing it. No longer separated by race, religion, creed, or anything, because we're weak that way. Right now, they don't care what color you're. They're looking at humanity, right? And are some people more susceptible to what's going on? Of course, because there's a target. But at the end of the day, it's humanity that's being targeted. No one's left out of this equation, out of this agenda.
No, it's true.
No one's left out. You know what I mean? If you're not a part of that upper echelon circle, you are a target, and that is it.
And what they just met at Davos, right? The global elites, to talk about how they can control us, right? Has nothing to, they're going to continue with their jet planes and everything, but how they can control us, right?
I laugh at them because I said, when God is ready to shift his weight and throw it around, all hell is going to break loose.
Yes.
And I know it'll happen. It's just being allowed for right now for us to get ourselves together, for us to get ourselves in position, for the church to wake up, because the church too compromised itself. You know, it's just a lot. We're all being called in to service, pretty much. We're all being drafted.
Yes.
We're being drafted.
Absolutely.
You know,
I like that term.
We're being drafted, and we have to answer the call. And if we choose not to, then we'll just fall prey. Because you're going to be on one side or the other. In this war, it's them or us.
That's right.
That's it.
No more fence sitting, right? No more sitting on the fence. You know, people don't realize there's more of us than them. They cannot get away with any of this if we all push back.
That's why they're moving the agenda up. Because they're now running around scared. They're trying to figure out what to do. You know? They don't know what to do. They're trying to lie. Someone forgot to tell this one about the lie. So one person makes a comment at 1 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock or 1:15, someone else is at another station making another comment that's contradicting the other. You know, and they think they're confusing us. No, you're confused. But that's what God said. God said he'll scatter your enemies, right? And he'll confound. Confound the wise, right? He'll confound them. And so that's what's happening.
And what did he do? The Tower of Babel, right? He confused all of them, so they couldn't go. When they were in one accord, they had strength,
they accomplish everything,
and they would and they thought they were going to get all the way to heaven, right, and overthrow God. And what did he do?
That was it.
Confuse them. It will happen, and we know God wins, you know. But you're right. We do need to get involved on the local level. I always say that. So let's talk about
different ranks to the army, right? I apologize.
No, go ahead.
There's different ranks in an army, right?
Yes.
And everyone has their role that they play. And so everyone is not an attorney. Everyone's not a doctor. Everyone's not a legislator. Everyone's not has a television personality or media personality. But everyone has a role, right? And so if everyone plays their role and uses their power, harness that power and uses it in that role, then we defeat them on all levels. Because for them, it's here, right? They're here looking down. They have peons on the lower level, and they're all brainwashed. Right? So they can't think for themselves. If anything goes outside of the plan and the box, they don't know what to do. We are flexible. We're watching, we're discerning, we know what's going on, and we can adjust and adapt. And that's what makes us powerful, and that's what makes us strong. So if we just unify, they're really confused. And I've been saying that from the beginning. This is the real United Nations. They don't know who's who and what's what, right? Because it's no longer black and white and Latina and this and that. No, it's all of us. We're all together. We're all fighting. We're all coming for you. That's that. So they don't know who's who. And that's our strength.
That's a great point. Yes. So next week, we're coming down to the wire. So yes, February 4th is going to be an amazing event. Prophets. Yes. Right?
Yes.
Prayer, Prophets, and Patriots.
Yes.
I love it. It's a tongue twister.
Yes.
So you want to talk about that a little bit? You'll be one of the guest speakers, which is very exciting. You were there. What was it, last June when we had the prayer breakfast?
Yes.
With Dr. Mary Crowley, and that was so powerful.
Yes, it was. It was, and I will be there again. And it's very important, because this is not a battle that's going to be won without God. It is God's war.
Absolutely.
He is, and I think this is just the next theme that he has given me. He is the master strategist. He is the general. He is leading this army. And if we don't take our orders and directions from him, we are screwed. We are. And so it's important to
We'll be
come.
casualties. Definitely.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
important to come together, right? And we need the Patriots. We need, what is it? The prayer prophets and the Patriots, right?
See, even you get the prayer
we
prophets and Patriots. I got the flyer that I got to put up.
yes.
I promised Marshall I would show the flyer.
We need everyone, but we need people who know God, understand God, and hear God, and recognizes Him, because He's the one on the throne, and we are not going to win this without Him.
That's right.
We're not. They have their God, and that's what people don't realize. They have their God.
Yes, they
and
do.
we all know they have their God. They're doing what they're doing. They're doing their sacrifices and their offerings and tithes, everything that they're doing.
Underground, yep, in the tunnels,
exactly.
yep.
Exactly. So if we think that we're going to win this without the one true God, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
All the intellect, all the connections, everything that's there, at the end of the day, this is God's war. It's a spiritual battle. It is warfare in the highest ranks. It really, really is. And that's why they're so bold. They're so bold with everything that's going on, so bold with everything that's happening, because the enemy gets arrogant. Satan gets arrogant because he thinks he's winning. I don't know why. I think he's got to be the dumbest thing ever. Because
exactly. To even think he's going to be God.
Yeah, I don't even understand. He's got to be really dumb. But
I think he knows his time is short. And he just wants to take as many people with him.
Yes.
You know?
Unfortunately, his followers don't realize how short his time is. They know it, so they're speeding up everything, but they don't realize that this battle is done. You know, and we will win. We are winning. You know, it's just when God decides, when God is done setting everything up and doing what He needs to do, then we will see. Then victory will be manifest. And that's it.
And a great harvest. We're going to see a great. We're already seeing a harvest, but we're going to see a great harvest like never before.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's going to be a serious shifting and transfer. Ooh, and I feel. It's going to be a serious. I just felt that. I'm like, "Ooh, yes, God." It's going to be a serious transfer of power, wealth, influence. It's going to be a battle like that's never been seen. Oh, you're getting me started now.
Go for it. Come on, my sister. Go for it.
Battle that has not been seen before, and I feel it. I can see it spiritually. The Lord showed it to me when COVID was just beginning. And I said, God, what are you telling me? What is this about? Didn't know what was happening. Didn't know what was going on. November 2019, the Lord told me something big was coming and a big shift was coming. Lives were going to change. Things were going to be different. Didn't know what it was. April 2020, He gave me 13 pages of just talking to me. And I wrote it down and I put it over there. And I had phone calls from 2 to 3 other people that I had not spoken to between 5 and 20 years that got in touch with me, that confirmed His word to me. It's just been crazy. And the battle, the victory, the way this is going to go down, it's difficult for me to even explain. It's just in my spirit. I can see it.
You feel led to share that, because you should put it in a book form. If you feel the Lord wants you to share it, definitely put it in a book and get it out there.
You're probably right. I probably should. It's wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So do you see, let me ask you this. Do you see, okay, so we know that Satan is speeding up the end times. Do you see God pushing it back, or do you see, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you see, like, you know, we're going to go into the tribulation anytime soon? Or do you think God is pushing it back because He wants to bring in that big harvest first?
I don't think He's pushing anything back. I think it's just His timing. We're thinking about timing. You're thinking about it in terms of human, right? Timing, this earthly.
Well, like you have Satan's timeline and God's timeline. So
Satan's timeline don't matter. Everything is subject to God. Everything is subject to God. So He's still operating in God's time. The only reason why He can even operate now is because God is allowing it. Right. So I think we're completely in end time. I think we are in end times, or the beginning of end times. The end times is how we know it. Right. And it's going to shift into something else. But I think there's going to be a wealth transfer. God is going to allow His people to his word has to be made manifest. He can't come until his word is completely manifest. And there are how many thousands of promises in that Bible that has to be manifest,
Yes.
right? And so that has to happen. But if we try to think about it in terms of time, we're limiting it because we're thinking about it in terms of the time that's subject on this earth. We live outside of time if we believe in the God that we talk about, right? Spirit. We're subject to this time because we're here and we're operating in the earthly realm, but technically we operate outside of that. And if we just understood who we were and what we were and how powerful we were and aligned ourselves completely, everything would be subject to us and our timing. So it's not a simple question you're asking, but I understand what you're asking, and I'm really answering you through spirit right now because it's not Tricia Lindsay that has these answers.
No, I sense that. I could sense that. Yes.
But so it sounds a little complicated, but I don't think he's stopping time. I think it is just in his time. I think it's just God's timeline.
Yes.
So we may see it as he's probably holding time up, but that's not what it is. It's just his timing.
Right.
1,000 of
that's
our
what
years,
I meant. So
1,000 of our years is a day in his world, right? So
that's right.
Right.
It's God's timeline. Yes.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Which is why the enemy has to speed up, because he realizes this is God's timeline. God is not speeding nothing up, changing anything. He has to speed up because he's realizing, oh, wait a minute.
Absolutely.
We're losing. Something is going on. People are waking up. The transparency for them, they became so bold.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
And they started being transparent about everything.
How many times did they say New World Order right to our face?
Wait, do you know I've been saying New World Order for... I told someone the other day, they said, no, you haven't. That's not true. I said, no, I have been talking about this. Don't mind me. Since I was like 19 years old. 21. I'm 50.
How did you first learn about it?
I just used to watch things. And I was always attracted to people that thought differently. Yeah. And so there was a gentleman that I was dating at the time, and he started talking about it, Illuminati and things of this nature. And I was like, huh? But I was never the person to say, oh, you're crazy. That doesn't make sense. I always said, that sounds
interesting.
Like it makes sense.
Something to think about.
Right. And I would go digging and looking and searching. And to be honest with you, because my mind was that way, I would tend to attract people. I can be on a line in Bora Bora, trying to get out the airport or in a store, and the strangest people would walk up, what we deem as the strangest people, which I like to call strange because I'm strange. Yeah. But the strangest people will walk up to me and just start talking to me about concepts that everyone else on the line doesn't know what they're talking about. Or they'll walk up and I get it. Or they'll walk up and stand next to me and start talking about it. And I just look over at them and I'll chime in and they say, you understand? And I said, yes, I do. And I'll just start talking. So I think it's just always been me. I just think I was put here for this. I really do. I just think I was put here. I'm a spiritual being. And it makes sense because when I was younger and every time I tried to be normal, it just didn't work out for me. It really just did not work out for me. And when I say normal, meaning try to fit in the crowd and just be,
one of
whatever. Yeah, because I was always thinking differently and challenging the status quo. I would be the one in the store. If someone said something to someone, I'm challenging. No, you can't do that. Right. No, that's not right. You're violating. That was always me. So when I would calm that side of me down and just try to fit in the mold, it just never worked. Yeah. And so after a while, I was just like, okay, this is boring, first of all. 1, 2, it doesn't work for me. I get in problems. I get in trouble. It just doesn't work. And I mean, when I mean trouble, meaning with family, friend, whatever. So...
Well, the family is the hardest people to win over. I mean,
exactly.
Right.
But definitely. But I just think we're already operating in God's time, and He's just doing things. That's such an interesting question. And since you've asked me that question, like I can literally feel time. That's interesting. I can literally. That's interesting. I've never experienced that before. That's interesting. Since you've asked me that, I can literally feel.
Wow.
Time.
Do you move in the gifts of the Spirit?
I do. I
Praise
do.
God.
I do.
Praise
I
God. My
do.
late husband did. He had, I used to be jealous because I got saved before him and I led him to the Lord and he's like moving in the gift of prophecy. And I'm like, Lord, what about me?
I
You know,
get it. Trust me.
I'm a
Trust me.
Christian a lot longer. What's going on here? But no, but I love to see when people move in the gifts of the Spirit.
Yeah, it's refreshing to meet more and more people who do, because for a long time I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what it was. And it's just one year God said, came right in my house. My spirit came right in here and said, sit down, let me teach you.
Wow.
Literally. And ever since that
Wow.
day, just said, I was in here, I was cleaning, and I heard sit down. I couldn't see the spirit, but I perceived it walking in, and I said, what is that? But it felt so good. It was such a good feeling. So I was comfortable. And I
Yeah.
said, Lord, is that you? Just like that. Never had an experience like that, but my spirit said, Lord. And I said, God, is that you? Jesus? Is that you? And he said, sit down, sit back. Let me teach you. Let me teach you. And I sat
Wow.
down and I took my Bible and put it on the bed, and it opened up naturally to scripture that he had been telling me about the whole weekend. And I didn't sit down and really truly read it. And that night it opened again to it. And he said, read this. And that started my lesson. Personal teaching.
Wow. How old were you? Was this like in the beginning of your walk with the Lord?
This was the beginning of my new walk,
Ah,
my deeper walk.
right.
When I started, came a point in my life when I said, okay, God, if this is all there is to this Christianity situation, then this is not it for me. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense. And
I think God likes when we're honest like that.
yeah, I think so too. I've always been like that. And when I try not to be, people say, oh, don't question God. Don't do I said, no, I'm questioning God. I need just some questions I have. Like, I need to know what is this about? And I literally said to him one day, I said, there has to be more to this. This doesn't make sense. I said, I should be seeing healings. I should be seeing, I said, Lord, I want to see people being risen from the dead. I said, Lord, I want to walk on water. Like, I want to do, like, I want to see this. This is what you said. You said in your word that greater works will you do,
had
right?
that
So why is
faith.
it not happening? And that's
Right.
when I said the church is compromising. Something is wrong. Why am I not seeing more miracles in the church? Why am I not seeing more power in the church? Why am I not seeing? So I started asking for it. Like, something is missing.
Wow.
Because if I can do everything and make it of my own and do it, then why do I need you? And clearly I do.
Yeah.
But there's got to be more to this. And I said, God, this is not going to hold me. This is not going to hold me. I need more. Show me more of you. Show me more of you. Show me
Praise
who you
God.
are. Show me what you are. Because this cannot be it. And he started showing me.
Wow. That should be all our prayer.
When people would say, I want to go to a different level, I was like, I don't want any levels. And they said, what are you talking about? The first time I said that, you don't want to go to a greater level in God? I said, no, I want to go to a greater dimension.
Nice.
I said, I want to go to another dimension, because a level is just one step up. God is out there. This whole universe is his. So when we're asking for a level, what does that mean? A flight of steps?
Right.
I want to soar. I want to go to a greater dimension. God, show me who you are. Let me understand your mind. Let me understand who you are and what you are. Show up and show off. Let's see what this is about.
Amen. And that's what a relationship is all about. Because if you're in a relationship with a man, or a man's, with a woman,
That's fine. Mm-hmm.
how do you get to really know them?
Absolutely.
You have to open yourself up to them, open your heart to them,
Absolutely.
right? And spend time with them and want to know them better.
Absolutely. And that was my song for years. I remember singing Fred Hammond, I Want to Know Your Ways, for years. Fred Hammond.
That's wonderful.
Yes, I want to know your ways. And I sang that song for years. Yeah, so.
I don't know if you know Sam Kennison. He was a comedian back in the 90s. He started as a preacher.
I may know him by face, but not by name.
Well, he passed away. He passed away in the early 90s. But when he was preaching, he said, if I can't be myself with the Father, and he was Pentecostal, so he screamed it.
I grew up Pentecostal, so I get it.
Me too.
Yes.
He said, well, people are going to correct me. They're going to say, you said you were Catholic. I was raised a Catholic. Then when I got saved, I went to the Pentecostal church. So I know.
And that's interesting because I went to Catholic school, but grew up in a Pentecostal
Oh,
church.
there you go. I went to Catholic school too. So he was a preacher. Then he was a comedian. But when he was a comedian, he would start at 0 and go to 100 in seconds. He would scream, but it made everybody laugh. And he could scream and it wouldn't hurt his throat because he was a Pentecostal
Preacher.
minister. He was used to it. So he screamed, if I can't be myself with the Father, then I'm going to stop preaching this gospel. And that's what I was thinking of when you said that.
Listen,
so
I ask God for everything. I talk to him about everything. I'm like, listen, yes. You know I need X, Y, Z, God. Yeah. But if this is not what you want, that's fine.
Right,
I'm okay with it, but just let me know.
Right.
Because this is what Tricia needs. Right. This is what I think I need, you know? And I'm very real. I mean, I speak to God like he's my friend. Like for years, like I will have a full-on conversation, you know, full-on conversation. And I enjoy it. I love it. He is my best friend. He literally is my best friend.
And that's how it should be. That's amazing. Yeah. I've had incidents where I'm like shopping for somebody and I'll go in the store and I'll be like, Lord, please show me what you want me to get. And I would find something and it was exactly what that person wanted. But that's God, you know?
It is God. He takes care of everything. I will never forget the first time I realized how much. I mean, I was going to a wedding and I had to MC the wedding. And I had this picture of this dress in my head that I wanted, that I had no idea where to get it, didn't know. And I said, God, this is what I want. This is what I want. I don't want to pay X, Y, Z, but even if I do, if it's cost this much, you'll provide. So I'm not even worried about it. But this is what I want. And this is what I just had this whole dress in my head. And I said, I'm going to go to the store and I'm just asking you to provide it. Do you know, I went into the store, went down the steps.
Wow,
Lord and Taylor in East Chester, New York. I got to the bottom. He told me to go to the left. I turned to the left, and I stood right there in the corner, and he said, look over there, look across the room. And can I tell you, I looked across the room diagonally, and the exact dress that I had in my mind is what he provided for me.
Wow.
And that's when I said, me and you, God, we're going to go far. And it wasn't the fact that he gave me that. It was the fact that something so little and unimportant on the wider scale of life, he took the time to provide for me. So it told me how much he really loved me, like how much he really considered me and how much
he cares about our concerns and our wants and our needs. And
yes. You know? And I was a showstopper in that dress.
That's awesome.
No,
if you have a picture somewhere, I want to see it sometime. That's awesome.
Okay.
We need a picture to go with the story.
Okay.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But it was just wonderful. And ever since, and prior to that, he had demonstrated, but that day it was just like a reminder. And so even when things get hard and tough, there are times that I'll just say to him, okay, God, I know you hear me. I know you're taking care of things, but this is a little hard right now. And this is just a lot going on. And I would just say, God, just give me an inkling. Just give me a little sign that you're on it, that you're going to, you know, I don't know what you're going to do, but I just need something. And when I tell you, every time, it never fails, something will happen and I know it's God. Yes. And I will just sit there and just chuckle and just say, you have got to be the most amazing thing in my life because you take care of every little thing, every little thing. So if he'll take care of the little things,
yes,
he's going to take care of everything. You know, this is the time to make him more famous on this earth. With everything that's going on, it's causing people to come to him more. It's causing people to search for God more. Yes. It's causing people to ask questions more, and it's leading, right? And he says before he turns, everyone will have heard. Everyone will have heard about the gospel. Everyone. And so that's what's happening, right? That's what's happening. In our silos, it couldn't happen, but that's why they tried to lock us down, shut the churches, close everything up. But it forced people.
The bars were open, right?
Exactly. But what did it do? It pushed us into our homes. And as much as I hold those churches accountable, when I said, you guys got to be accountable.
Yeah. Well, I believe, a lot of them.
connecting with a
Oh,
in South Africa. I ended up connecting, you know. So what the enemy meant for evil, God turned it for good because a lot of churches grew. More and more people heard the gospel that ordinarily I would not have known probably about this pastor in South Africa. I probably would not have known about the one in California,
right.
you know, and it expanded. So so now the church is has gone digital, right? And it's reaching people that ordinarily would not have gone in church. And that's not an excuse because I still think the churches were wrong to close the doors and I still think they were
Yeah,
wrong to shut down. I really do. But that's for God to deal with. But I'm just
right.
saying what, you know, God, when God is involved, no matter what the enemy plans, there's always something that God has. And he's ultimately going to win. He's ultimately going to win. So no
That's
matter
right.
what they plan, no matter what they do, he always has his plan. It's not even a contingency plan. His plan is always in effect. Always in effect. That's
That's
their contingency plan. His plan is always in effect. And so you now have
yes.
people that, you know, were on church services and things like that. I was on in church services with people who were Buddhists and Hindus, like, I mean, that were in Pentecostal services, or people who just, they were just hungry to be in service, you
Wow.
know? And so who would have known, you
Yeah.
know? Who would have known? And so that's where we are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. God is great.
So, real quick, talk about the peace because, a lot of people are like a little fearful of what's going on and inflation and just everything that they're hitting us with. But God gives you that peace when you have a relationship with Him.
Stay in the word, pray, have a relationship, because that's where the peace comes from. If you don't know God, you're not going to have peace. It's just not going to happen. And that's something I've learned over the years. I used to say when I was an educator, you know, if I didn't know Jesus, I'd be a drunk. I used to tell them, I said, because between the kids at home and the kids in school, you all drive me crazy.
That's
You
right.
know?
That's right. You had Him day and night.
What? Yes. But I often say that. And then over the past few years, I've been saying to, you know, to colleagues and friends that I understand I understand when people have drug problems, alcohol problems. I understand suicide, not to the extent that I would do it, but I
Right.
understand
Getting that low, being that
getting
low,
that
that
low. Because
depressed.
if you,
Yeah.
yeah, because if you don't have anything to
Right.
hold on to,
Right.
this life can be very difficult, can be very disheartening, it can be very volatile. You know, and if you don't have a hope in something outside of you or outside of your family or outside of the circumstances, then you can get that low. I can
Yeah.
see how it can happen,
Yeah.
you know. And I said, but I thank God I have a hope in Jesus. I have a hope in God. And I do know that there is something else. And there is someone that sits high and he's watching over me and he takes care of things. That things can never be that bad. Never, never, ever, ever be that bad for me because I know in who I put my trust. I look to the hills from whence cometh my help because I know that my help comes from the Lord. And that's it.
Amen.
That's how I do what I do. My entire life has been orchestrated by God, the good, the bad, and the indifferent. Every bit of it has come to a fore, and everything is being used by God. So where people look at things that go on in their lives that are unfortunate, if they just switch to perspective and try to find the gift in it,
Yeah.
and I know that's easier said than done, depending on what you're going through. But there's a gift in it because it's circumstance, it's tragedy, it's challenges in life that forces us to evolve. It's that contrast. If there wasn't so much evil, we wouldn't be looking for so much good. If there wasn't so
That's true.
much, just so much chaos, we wouldn't be looking for peace and craving it. And that chaos causes the natural yearning that even when we don't open our mouths to say, I need peace, our spirit goes out and our desires go out. It goes out of us naturally and pulls on the peace, and we're trying to find it supernaturally. And so God, in his infinite powers,
Yes.
responds to that and gives us what we want. And it becomes a collective consciousness whereby we are all on one accord seeking for the same thing without even realizing it. And that causes a shifting in the earth, and it must respond to what we want. And so if we just stay in that collective consciousness, that's why they try to separate us. That's why they use race. That's why they use socioeconomic status. That's why they use culture. That's why they use religion. That's why they use the lockdowns.
Yes.
To keep us separate. Because when we get together and we get on one accord, that is a collective consciousness that causes everything to shift. And everything must shift and must respond in that order, because it is our faith in the supreme God on this earth, and he will answer and he will move.
Praise God. Well, thank God for you. You are a mighty warrior. I'm glad you're on my side.
I'm glad you're on my side.
There you go. That's a good title for a book, actually.
You're probably right. Yes. You know what? I'm going to talk to you, Denise. You're trying to get me to write this book.
I think you should write a book. Hint, hint. Oh, it's been a pleasure. I would love to jump on with you and anytime.
Let me know.
Do another show.
Definitely.
You're amazing. You're amazing. And I just feel the spirit flowing from you. And oh God, it's just wonderful, wonderful. So I want to tell the viewers they can meet you. We're going to have an amazing event. It's just going to be so powerful with Dr. Mary Crowley, right? Lee Valentine, Pastor Gwen Joseph, and Pastor Jerome Davidson.
Yes. It's going to be wonderful. I'm looking forward to it.
It really is.
Show up.
God's going to show up. So you guys can get tickets. It's February 4th, 8 a.m.
to 2 p.m.
Pushpatriot.com. That's push, P-U-S-H, for pray until something happens.
Yes.
I can't believe I remembered that. Yes. I remember that more than the prayer prophets and So you guys go to pushpatriots.com, get your tickets. They're cheaper if you get them online than if you go to the door. And but we're going to have amazing guests. It's going to be a powerful event. God is going to move. He's going to be speaking through his people, encouraging us and just building us up and strengthening us, because we're all in this fight together, and
Absolutely.
God wins, and we can't forget that. But we all want to be a part. We all want to play a part. We want God to use us however he wants.
Absolutely.
We want to be open to it, right?
Absolutely. Definitely. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay. God bless you.
God bless.
Okay, I'm going to